I'm delighted to introduce our next speaker, Mrs. Laura Bowie. Laura is Executive Director of the Gulf of Mexico Alliance, and that's a regional ocean partnership that works to sustain the resources of the Gulf of Mexico. The regional ocean partnerships are voluntarily convened by the governors, and they do this in collaboration with other governments and stakeholders to address ocean and coastal issues that are of common concern in the region. GOMA has been an integral partner to the formation and operation of the Gulf of Mexico Research Initiative. And quite honestly, quite frankly, our success could not have been possible without Laura. So Laura, it's been fantastic to work with you, and I now consider you part of our family, and I'm delighted to turn over the podium to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Rita. I can't say enough about working with you and the research board, but you in particular, it's just been a pleasure, and I hate that it's coming to a close. And so I vow to look for additional opportunities that we can work together.
Great.
Thank you for having me today. I'm going to just provide a little context around the nature of the relationship between the Gulf of Mexico Research Initiative and GOMA. So I'm Laura Bowie. I'm the Executive Director for the Gulf of Mexico Alliance. We often refer to ourselves as GOMA. Next slide. Our mission at the Gulf of Mexico Alliance is to enhance the ecological and economic health of the Gulf through increased regional collaboration. And that's the key words right there, increased regional collaboration. The vision of the people who created GOMA was that the more voices we can have around a particular issue, the better solutions we will end up being able to find. So we were started in, I'm just going to tell you a little background about GOMA, and then we'll move into the relationship there. For those of you who may not be familiar with GOMA, we were started in 2004 by then Governor Jeb Bush of Florida, who reached out to his good friend Haley Barbour of Mississippi. And from there, they contacted the other three governors to determine, you know, is there any interest in possibly working together around issues that are common to all 5 states, specifically concerning the Gulf of Mexico? And it was really kind of an experiment at the beginning. No one had ever done anything like this before. To address, you know, particular issues from a regional, non-regulatory aspect rather than a super state-by-state aspect. Hadn't been done in the Gulf anyway. And that was 16 years ago, and the experiment has stuck, if you will. 16 years later, we find ourselves, the Gulf states have found it immensely beneficial to work together on certain issues. And so this is our structure right here. We've always been led by the 5 Gulf state governors. We have an active business council and an active federal work group. And we oversee or administer 2 very robust programs, one of which we're here to talk about today, the oil spill research program called GOMRI. But also we are also devoted to our priority issues that were identified by the 5 Gulf states. So when we started out with just 35 people at that very first GOMA meeting back in 2004, it was primarily state agencies and federal agencies that came to the table to find out if this is really something we should try to do, right? So now we have about 1,000 people that participate on various working groups and committees and teams. We're no longer just the states and the feds. In fact, we realized early on that we could not do it without our university and academic friends. We couldn't do it without our national and local nonprofit organizations. And we have a robust representation from the 7 largest industries that operate in the Gulf of Mexico now too. The Gulf states do tweak our priorities from time to time, about every 5 years or so, but the role that we play in the region has remained steadfast. So we provide forums for collaboration around the particular priorities that the Gulf states set, those in the form of webinars or meetings, if you will. We also develop tools and pilot programs, you know, kind of really foundational stuff that help in coastal management or restoration planning since the oil spill. We also are always trying to expand the partner network so that we can help create strategic partnerships, which has come in handy both on the GOMA team side of things, but also on the GOMRI side of things too. These are the priority issues that we're currently working on. So we're working on enhancing coastal resilience, improving data access and baseline monitoring, increasing stewardship through education and engagement, conserving and restoring habitats, improving the quality of water resources, but also improving the health of non-regulated wildlife and fisheries. These are our action plans. These are how we do it. We've published 3 so far, and we are working on our 4th. You'll notice that each one has been signed off on by all 5 Gulf state governors. That's not always an easy task. Those governors are not always of the same political stripes, if you will. So, but however, we've been able to find common ground enough among all 5 Gulf states that keep us busy. And so we've been able to publish and work towards each of these action plans. So you might be scratching your head and wondering, what is the connection? What's the connection between GOMA and GoMRI? Next slide. In 2011, GOMA entered into a master research agreement with BP as a conduit, if you will, an agreement, a mechanism through which the funds flowed from BP to the researchers at the direction of the independent research board. It lays out exactly how the funds are to be administered by GOMA, and as well as the independent role of the research board, meaning that neither BP nor the states could influence the resulting research. You have to remember that at this, go back one more slide real quick. You have to remember that at this time, they were just beginning the negotiations that would later become the Restore Act and the NIFWIF settlement and the NERDA settlement. And there was much concern about independence of resulting research from all of those programs. So we were a leader in that way. There we go. The partnership between GOMA and GoMRI has helped to better connect the state and federal agencies to the Gulf of Mexico academic community and scientists from around the world. So we're each playing a very vital role in this. And we want to continue doing that. So you're probably familiar with the GO-MOSES conference that happens every year, or you may be familiar with the GOMA All Hands meeting that happens every year. And our goal is to keep bringing scientists and coastal resource managers together. We want to do it with a very large conference that will occur every other year called the Gulf of Mexico Conference. It'll be the sequel to GO-MOSES, if you will. There'll be 2 to 3 days of opportunities for scientists to present their research to audiences interested in ocean and coastal environments, including restoration managers and coastal resource managers. We had hoped to kick off the Gulf of Mexico conference in this coming spring of 21, but we're realizing that in-person events may not be possible until 22. So this actual in-person conference will actually happen in spring of 2022. Instead, please be on the lookout for details. I think they went out just this week, actually. Be on the lookout for details of the Gulf of Mexico conference preview event. It's going to be a virtual preview event that will happen in April of 2021. So please be on the lookout. I'm looking out for you, and we hope to continue this collaboration into the future.